Across the 104 matches of this World Cup, the total volume of capital wagered on the tournament reached an estimated $240 billion. This data visualization charts that volume against the previous tournament in Qatar in 2022. In a span of exactly 4 years, the global betting handle has doubled. That sheer weight of liquidity triggered immediate concern among monitors. Regulators placed 15 specific matches under increased surveillance, applying the most scrutiny during the final round of group games, where competitive incentives often break down. On Tuesday following the tournament, FIFA's Internal Integrity Task Force published its findings. They reported a completely clean sheet, 0 suspicious betting activities, and 0 indications of match manipulation across the entire competition. Exactly 24 hours later, a separate independent integrity operation published an entirely contradictory report. They detailed 7 distinct notices for possible match manipulation. The group issuing those flags is the Group of Copenhagen. They operate under a multilateral treaty drafted by the Council of Europe, called the Macallan Convention, an international legal framework designed specifically to track and prosecute sports manipulation. Alain Berset, Secretary General of the Council, framed the problem directly. He warned that the modern sports betting industry has expanded into an unmonitored frontier, creating an open door to fraud. To be completely clear, these 7 flags are not confirmed instances of match fixing. Instead, they trace the outlines of an entirely different threat architecture. Corrupting a match no longer requires altering the final score. Exploiters can now target highly specific, isolated events, while leaving the final outcome of the game completely untouched. The rapid expansion of unregulated prediction markets has shifted the vulnerability of international sports. The risk model has moved away from vast, multiplayer conspiracies and toward the exploitation of isolated micro-events. This logic model maps out the mechanical difference between a traditional fix and a micro-event exploit. Rigging a final scoreline requires multiple participants. A corrupt referee still needs a compliant goalkeeper to ensure the result. That network of communication carries a high risk of detection. A micro-event market allows users to bet on individual statistics, a yellow card in the first 20 minutes, a specific corner kick, or a throw-in. Manipulating that market requires exactly one compromised individual making a single, subjectively plausible decision. This brings us to the first of the 7 flagged anomalies. It centers on a group stage match between Spain and Saudi Arabia, specifically a goal scored by Spain's Ferran Torres. At the time the goal was scored, Spain was already holding a commanding 4-0 lead. The competitive outcome of the match was completely decided. Following the play, officials initiated a massive 3.5-minute VAR review, disallowing the goal. In a traditional betting ecosystem focused solely on who wins and loses, wiping a 5th goal off the board in a blowout holds 0 financial value. But on decentralized prediction platforms, users hold significant financial positions on the exact number of total goals scored. A single decision to reverse a goal mid-game triggers massive swings of capital across those specific contracts. These platforms allow bad actors to transform harmless, low-stakes administrative delays into highly lucrative financial exploits. The monetary value of the call is completely detached from the competitive integrity of the sport. Prediction markets also introduce the risk of information asymmetry. If you know a regulatory decision is coming before the public does, you can extract immense value from that delay. The second major flagged event illustrates this perfectly. It revolves around Folarin Balogun, who received a straight red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina, carrying an automatic 1-match suspension. This timeline graphic tracks the immediate aftermath. Point A marks the red card. Point B marks the exact same day when a highly niche betting market opened online, asking a specific question: will Balogun play in the next match against Belgium? By the letter of the rulebook, Balogun was definitively stopped. Creating a market to bet on his return directly contradicted the established disciplinary code. 3 days later, the FIFA Disciplinary Committee announced that his suspension had been shelved. He was cleared to play, instantly paying out anyone who bet against the rulebook. We can look at the data from the rest of the tournament to see why integrity monitors flagged this. 15 players were sent off with straight red cards over the course of the World Cup. Of those 15 players, no prediction market was ever opened for the other 14. Pressure. including a phone call from Donald Trump to FIFA President Gianni Infantino, prompting 72 European Parliament members to demand an investigation into Infantino's involvement. When governing bodies operate behind closed doors, prediction markets provide a direct mechanism to instantly monetize that opacity. Exploiting a loophole is profitable, but knowing exactly when an institution will bend its own rules is a guaranteed return. There is a strong economic counterargument to all of this. In an ecosystem holding $240 billion, massive localized data anomalies do not automatically equal coordinated fraud. The Group of Copenhagen operates on a 4-tier alert system. All 7 notices from this tournament were classified as yellow flags. They signal unexplained odds swings and mandate further investigation, but they are not findings of guilt. The third flagged case study highlights why those swings happen. The prediction platform Polymarket recorded nearly $5 million on contracts betting that Spain would fail to defeat Cape Verde in the group stages. Statistically, the outcome was highly improbable. Spain went on to win the entire World Cup, yet they were held to a scoreless draw by the heavy underdogs. Gambling expert Christian Kolb points out that these massive financial spikes can often be traced back to ordinary defensive market mechanics rather than malicious syndicates. This liquidity flow model illustrates institutional hedging. If you operate a small bookmaker and the entire public places heavy bets on Spain to win, you are carrying a catastrophic financial liability if that outcome hits. To balance their books and protect against bankruptcy, that bookmaker will buy insurance. They will go into a decentralized prediction market and place millions of dollars on the exact opposite outcome. This basic risk management strategy creates massive volume on unlikely events. And crucially, a legitimate hedge creates the exact same data footprint as a coordinated match-fixing syndicate. At this scale of capital, structural false positives are mathematically guaranteed. Regulators are left sifting through billions of dollars, struggling to distinguish between prudent financial insurance and systemic corruption. This brings us back to the core contradiction from the start of the tournament. The fact that FIFA cleared itself of all anomalies, while the Group of Copenhagen raised 7 flags in the same 24-hour window, points to a structural problem. In April, FIFA signed a sponsorship agreement with 80 Predict Street, an official prediction market company founded just months before the tournament. This creates a direct institutional conflict of interest. The governing body responsible for policing market manipulation is now actively monetizing the very industry generating the risk. Auditing these platforms is incredibly difficult. They often rely on anonymous cryptocurrency payments and operate across international jurisdictions where regulatory oversight is easily bypassed. The Council of Europe is not demanding retroactive punishments or claiming the tournament was entirely rigged. Their official request is constructive. They are calling for an immediate working dialogue to establish a binding, cross-border integrity framework to monitor these specific markets. The hard deadline for that framework is the 2030 World Cup, which will be hosted across Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. When governing bodies refuse to build transparent enforcement mechanisms, they compromise their own product. Every delayed VAR review, every lifted suspension, and every unusual refereeing decision gets subjected to permanent public doubt. A sports institution's credibility rarely collapses from a single proven instance of corruption. It erodes through a structural failure to answer for the vulnerabilities it has willingly chosen to monetize.